One thing that was really unique was that as the world navigated the pandemic, Growing Kindness was growing by leaps and bounds because it was exactly what we were all craving at that time, was a way to find comfort and solace in the garden, and a way to find a sense of community, a way to give back, a way to spread joy, a way to spread kindness. It was a place that people could belong. It gave people a reason to step outside. And even if we were connecting from a distance, it still gave people this opportunity to connect. Hey friend, welcome to the Growing Kindness podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Kitchen, founder of the Growing Kindness movement. This is a place where we grow together, learning to root our lives in kindness, connection, and community. If you've ever wished the world felt a little softer, a little more neighborly, or if you're craving stories that remind you that goodness still grows, you're in the right place. Together with our guests, we'll share stories of generosity and community, proof that even the smallest acts of kindness, from growing and giving cut flowers to everyday acts of care, can change lives and connect us in powerful ways. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. This season is made possible by Heirloom Roses, our Season 2 sponsor. We're deeply grateful for their generosity that helps carry the Growing Kindness mission forward and makes these stories possible. When we first kicked off this podcast in November, I opened by sharing my story, how the Growing Kindness mission came to be. Today, I'm here with you again, taking the mic again, it's just me, to share more of that journey and more of that story, a little bit more of my heart in it and through it. Also, especially some really big news about what is coming next for the Growing Kindness movement, for our organization, and for this community. I'll be honest, this podcast feels a little bit hard, but it also feels a lot hopeful. But before I begin and share more of that with you, I want to pause and celebrate something really special with you. We just completed our first season of this podcast. We had the privilege of hearing from 10 incredible women, 10 stories of resilience and kindness that have now had a chance to reach across the world. Getting to hear their stories and share them with you has been such a reminder to me that truly no act of kindness is small. It's reminded me that giving freely gives us back more than we ever expect. And it's also really reminded me that every story matters. So thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for holding space for these incredible people and their beautiful stories. I really, truly believe that one of the kindest things that we can do for another is to just sit with them and listen, just be there and to truly hear. And I think by doing that, even here today, in a way, you are offering me that beautiful gift and helping kindness grow. So thank you for that. Okay, so speaking of holding space for stories, I want to share more of mine with you today. I'll be honest, I find these podcast episodes where it's just me sharing with you harder, probably because of the vulnerability that I have to sit in and just share my story. But I'm glad for the opportunity to get to do it, and I'm grateful for you being here to hear it. So I'm reminding myself right now that showing up as we are with what we have is always going to be enough, that vulnerability opens doors to connection, and also that because of that, it can feel scary to share your whole heart. So thank you for holding space with me for that today. I want to rewind 7 years ago. 7 years ago is when I first launched the Growing Kindness movement. At that time, I had no idea how much it would feel like raising a child. Bringing Growing Kindness into the world was like bringing this tiny idea. It was so vulnerable and needy and beautiful, and it was filled with so much potential. When I look back over those 7 years, it's wild to me how much bringing this nonprofit organization, bringing this movement into the world, into life, has really, for me, paralleled nurturing a newborn. A lot like a brand new parent, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I loved it so much. I loved the community that we were building, the beauty of what happened when we put flowers in people's hands and doors opened and connections were built, the joy that it brought, both the people who were receiving and the people who were giving, the experience of getting to witness people putting down their phones and stepping back from screens and stepping into real life, into their gardens, getting to meet their neighbors, getting to give back in simple and powerful ways in their community. It has been nothing short of incredible to get to witness and be a part of. And really, in a way, you know how we're wired so that holding a baby releases oxytocin, like the feel-good hormone. Actually, it's fun. I just got to talk with Dr. Darvish about that a few episodes back. Well, wildly enough, like Growing Kindness, when it started out, felt like that in so many ways. It was this like brand new, tender, vulnerable, beautiful thing. And I got to hold it, and getting to watch it grow felt like that, like getting to welcome every new team member, every team call that we had, every ambassador kickoff. Like it was just the biggest dose of connection and joy and excitement and energy and hope. It was incredible. It is incredible. Kind of like a newborn. As incredible and beautiful and exhilarating as that was, it was also really exhausting. So a little bit more of the backstory of how Growing Kindness really kicked off. When we had first started out with a small team in Washington State, it was 30 people. They came to my farm. We had a full day training together, and then they launched off into their towns and communities all around the Puget Sound of the Pacific Northwest. And that was our first year. And very quickly, it became so clear that the need to be able to share the inspiration and share resources and share a sense of team with people beyond just the Puget Sound was so needed. People were reaching out from all over the U.S. and all over the world. And that was when I made the decision to launch Growing Kindness as a formal nonprofit organization. And so when I did that, a little backstory, that was the fall of 2019 when I made that decision that I really wanted to see Growing Kindness be able to reach much further than I could reach from our little farm and our community, be able to see it support and hopefully inspire people, not just that I could reach locally, but that were all across the U.S. and all across the world. And so ironically, in the fall of 2019, when this was, we had also made the decision to try public school for all 3 of our boys. And so it was during the hours they were at school that I was building the foundation of Growing Kindness and figuring out how to put all the pieces in place to do that. At the same time, we'd made the decision as a family that we were going to fund it by donating all the proceeds from our dahlia tuber sale. So a little more backstory. At that point, I was working on building our small farm as a cut flower farm, and our biggest percentage of revenue came from our dahlia tuber sales. So we made the decision as a family in 2020, we would donate all this proceeds from that sales to be able to launch Growing Kindness officially, to be able to put together the pieces that we needed funding for, like application for 501c3 and building a website and all the things. Fast forward to March in 2020, the night before our massive, at least it was massive to us, online tuber sale, and it was going to fund the launch of Growing Kindness. Just weeks after we had launched our first national team, so it's 75 people on the national team from all across the U.S., we got a call from our school district that school would be closed indefinitely. We were 1 county away from ground zero of the pandemic spread in the U.S. And like everyone else, our lives changed overnight. And so it was kind of a ha-ha, jokes on you, try public school that year, because we were right back to homeschooling. But then it was also without this community and support and structure that we had had pre-COVID. And then also I had adjusted my days and schedule to be able to accommodate launching Growing Kindness. So the kids we'd do homeschool in the mornings. And the kids we would listen to endless audiobooks and eat countless snacks. And they would stand at the table with me and help stamp dahlia tubers. And then later on, after the sale, was complete pack dahlia tubers. And then once they were in bed, I would stay up until the early hours of the morning trying to figure out how to make Growing Kindness work and all the administrative pieces and launch pieces. And so for the next 2 years, that's kind of just how we navigated and how we functioned. And I mean, I know all of us at that time were trying to juggle all of the things. But one thing that was really unique was that as the world navigated the pandemic, Growing Kindness was growing by leaps and bounds because it was exactly what we were all craving at that time, was a way to find comfort and solace in the garden and a way to find a sense of community, a way to give back, a way to spread joy, a way to spread kindness. It was a place that people could belong. It gave people a reason to step outside. And even if we were connecting from a distance, it still gave people this opportunity to connect. As you can see, those early years, like, they were so much like raising a newborn. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You're running on adrenaline and caffeine and so little sleep and so much love. I would take my laptop everywhere with me. I stopped exercising. I just kept telling myself, like, I could rest later. So over the next 5 years, Growing Kindness kept growing. I've shared this before, and if you've listened to my first, podcast about how the movement launched, the only thing that I brought to this was a heart and a ridiculous belief that it would work and we could make it happen. And a really, really deep need for connection myself. I think that has always been one of the things that has been such a driving force in Growing Kindness, is just knowing how powerfully important it is that we have meaningful connection in our lives and feeling such a need for it myself. And so I came to it with that, but really not a lot else. My education was an elementary education. So I'd been an elementary school teacher and had just really kind of gotten going with our farm as a cut flower farm. But I had zero training in nonprofit management or business. I was just learning as I went, which meant, of course, making mistakes all along the way. And yet, despite that, there were so many incredible successes. We were featured in Country Living magazine and Better Homes and Gardens, invited onto a major talk show, appeared on some of the most popular podcasts in the U.S. In that time, our ambassador team grew to include every U.S. state, 7 Canadian provinces, Mexico, and England. And over the course of that time, we also trained 500 ambassadors and welcomed gardeners from every continent. I mean, except Antarctica, of course. But here's the thing. The real beauty, it wasn't in the numbers. It was in the stories. I got to hear from people who were using Growing and Giving Flowers to navigate through seasons of loss and grief. Families who were walking through illness but finding healing in the garden. Getting to hear from people who were meeting their neighbors for the first time because they were empowered by a simple little bouquet in their hand to walk across the street and make an introduction. I got to hear and still get to hear about kids that are in the garden with their parents, and they're just full of joy and excitement as they cut flowers, deciding who's going to get to receive that day's bouquet. That impact, those stories, that's what mattered. This tiny idea, that just the act of freely giving and this tiny idea has grown into something real. This tiny idea of just using what we have to do what we can, to step into our garden or maybe step onto our patio in a flower pot that we have there and plant a few seeds and nurture it and watch it grow in the way that it nurtures us back. And then to be able to use that then to reach out and nurture someone else and let them know they are seen and loved. It's so simple and it's so powerful. This year, So in December last year, 2025, we celebrated our 6th year as a 501c3 and our 7th year as a nonprofit organization. To clarify, we were a year in the process of getting that actual 501c3 status. Growing kindness is growing up the same way that a parent's role changes in their child's life as their child grows. My role in growing kindness is changing too. It's not lost on me, the irony, or perhaps the perfect parallel in my life, that right now my husband and I are preparing for our oldest son to graduate from high school this spring. And it is the most beautiful and hardest thing to loosen your grip and let them go. But here's the thing. If we don't, they never get to grow up and grow into who they're meant to be. That's the season of life that Growing Kindness is in right now. It's no longer a newborn. It's not even toddler. I mean, we've definitely stumbled around a lot. It's really more like a teenager now, full of potential, so much bigger than one person, and ready for more voices and more hands guiding it. If I were to keep trying to control it and hold it all on my own, it could never become what it's truly meant to be. And so it's time. I will be stepping down at the end of this month. I think when this podcast airs, will be almost to the end of the month. Our volunteer executive director. It was definitely not a title that I picked. Actually, to be honest, I don't know that I ever even recognized that's what role I was serving in our organization for so long. But it was just a role that needed to be filled. And I filled it every day for the last 7 years because I love this mission. And I love this community, and I love the beautiful work that together we're doing in the world. But it was never meant to be mine to hold and carry alone forever. It's just that my role moving forward is going to be changing in our organization. And that's because that is what's needed in this season of Growing Kindness as Life. So I also want to be clear in sharing. I don't want to sound in any way like I'm the only one who has been working on Growing Kindness over these last 7 years. That couldn't be farther from the truth. Really, truly, from the very first days, from the hours and hours Brittany spent helping divide the dahlia tubers that went into the sale, to the first Growing Kindness tags that Katie developed, to the first mailing systems that Heather created for our organization, to, just piece after piece after piece. There have been those who have come and poured in mightily to the work that we are doing. It's just that I've always been the one in the director role and kind of carried the day-to-day weight of decision-making and ensuring that Growing Kindness was still going and growing. And that's where we're going to be making some shifts. And so we are stepping into a season of growth and restructure right now. And it feels timely in many ways that it's spring. Spring is such a season of renewal and regrowth and new life. And that is what we're doing with Growing Kindness right now. So what you can expect to see is that we'll be taking a short pause on launching anything new so that we can really ensure that the foundation of our organization is really strong. And what you can expect with that is that means that we'll be taking a pause on opening enrollment for our ambassador program. While that's happening, while that pause is happening, we are working on expanding our board. We're building a stronger leadership team and inviting new voices to help carry the mission forward. And again, that's because Growing Kindness was never meant to be mine. It was truly meant to be ours. And this is where I want to invite you in. If you have felt like this mission belongs to you and you belong to it, it does. If you have a big heart for our organization, maybe you've walked alongside us for many years. If you bring talent and time and curiosity to the table and want to pour in, I want to encourage you to apply for the board. Or if you've ever grown a flower, given a bouquet, felt your heart stirred by a story that you've heard here on the podcast, followed along and reshared images and stories on social media. If you've ever had any part in the mission, we need you to right now. We need your voice. We need your input. We need your ideas. We would love for you to fill out a survey, very simple survey. It's 3 to 5 minutes, and help us understand what this community and what this movement has meant to you. Your voice truly helps shape what comes next. So we'll link to both of those things, both the board application and the survey, in the show notes so that you can get involved in whatever way feels best for you. This next chapter for Growing Kindness is going to be beautiful. It's not about growing kindness getting smaller. It's about growing kindness being stronger as an organization, about being steadier. It's about it being carried and led by many hands instead of just one tired pair. And as hard as it's been to come to this point and recognize that this is the season that Growing Kindness is now in, and this is the next step for me in my role in its life, it has also been equally beautiful. And I feel so much peace in this decision. And I feel so much hope and excitement for what comes next for Growing Kindness, because there are so many incredible people out there with vision and time and talent that they are ready to give to this mission and help carry it forward. And I know that it is on the cusp of growing in the most beautiful and exponential ways. And I'm so excited for that. And I know this, we've proven over these last 7 years that kindness grows best when we grow it together. And we are truly just getting started. So in closing today, I want to share with you something that's been a special part of my story and my journey for a long time. I mentioned earlier that I have a background as an elementary school teacher, and so children's books have always had a special place in my heart. I think they can profoundly and beautifully share a message that sometimes we have a hard time expressing. And one story that has been very near and dear to my heart for many years, it's called Miss Rumphius. It's by Barbara Cooney, Cooney. It has been very much a part of my story and really at the heart of the vision for Growing Kindness and in my journey personally as well. And I won't read the whole story to you, obviously, here, but it tells about a young girl growing up, and each night she sits with her grandfather, and her grandfather tells of his adventures, and then tells about his home by the sea where she lives with him, and then has another request for her. So I'm going to just read you that page. It says, "In the evening, Alice sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to stories of faraway places. When he had finished, Alice would say, 'When I grow up, I too will go to faraway places. And when I grow old, I too will live beside the sea.' 'That is all very well, little Alice,' her grandfather said, 'but there is a third thing you must do.' 'What is that?' asked Alice. 'You must do something to make the world more beautiful,' said her grandfather." And the story unfolds. As it unfolds, you read about her, something that she did to make the world more beautiful, and it was unexpected, I think, even to her. It has to do with pockets full of lupin seeds in a little community where she lived, and she truly made the world more beautiful. And I think that's a message to us all, and an opportunity and a calling that we all have is, how can we make the world more beautiful? I don't think it means building something impressive. The thing is that in this story, Miss Rumphius, with her pockets full of lupin seeds, as she let those seeds go out along the roadways and in the fields and all throughout her community, she sowed something beautiful by letting go. I think that one of the ways that we can make the world a more beautiful place is to not hold too tightly to something. I think it means planting generously and trusting that beauty doesn't belong to us once it begins growing. It belongs to everyone else. 7 years ago, I planted something small, and now I get to look around and see the blooms that I didn't tend. I hear stories that I didn't write, see fields blooming that I didn't walk. It's just another reason why I know that this was not mine to hold forever. That, I think, is the most beautiful thing of these things that we hold so tenderly, like a child, like a seed that has so much potential to grow up and grow out into the world and carry forward in ways that we can never imagine. But in order for that to happen, we have to be willing to let it go. You know, in this story, Miss Rumphius doesn't hold on tightly to those seeds. She scatters them freely. And I know as my role shifts in our organization and I release the role that I've had for so long, I just have such a deep peace and trust and joy for what Growing Kindness is becoming because of you. Because Growing Kindness never was mine. It was always ours together. I'm just grateful for every stem, every story, every quiet act of courage and kindness. The invitation will always remain the same. Grow something beautiful, give it away, and trust what happens next. Thank you for being here and for believing in this mission and this movement and for truly helping make the world a more beautiful place. Thank you so much for listening to the Growing Kindness podcast. If today's episode encouraged you, there are a few simple ways to keep growing kindness with us. First, you can join the team. When you become a Growing Kindness gardener, you link arms with like-minded, like-hearted people from all around the world who believe that small acts of kindness really do make a big difference. To learn more or join the team, visit growingkindnessproject.org/gardener. Thanks to the generosity of our donors, membership is free. Another way to get involved is to become a donor. The Growing Kindness movement and this, our podcast, are made possible by the generosity of our donors, kind-hearted people who believe, just like you, kindness matters. If you'd like to support the movement, visit growingkindnessproject.org/donate to make a gift and keep kindness blooming. And finally, if this episode touched your heart, would you share it with a friend? It's one of the simplest ways to spread kindness today. I'm so grateful you're here. Until next time, keep growing kindness, one bloom at a time.